we're addicted to the suck. We're addicted to the pain. We're addicted to the suffering. If I can suffer, if I can put myself through another brutal workout, at the end, I'm going to feel like I'm getting better. I will. And that doesn't mean I always will be. Where is that line of when you are so addicted to it, it becomes toxic?
We all have our biases, but like, can we not identify a bit of the dogma? Like, can we not just bring research in? Oh, okay, this has been studied in sports that have existed for 100 years. Why is that getting thrown out? Oh, it can't be a part of the conversation. It's just like when you come out and then you get shut down because you're just trying to have a conversation, you clearly love the sport. Don't worry, guys. I drink the Kool-Aid. I'm in there. But I have questions to ask.
If there was one thing that I said that I would have to say is mismanaged in our community, it's endurance work. Is that we do way too much high intensity in training to a point that I think people's progress is slowing down because of it. I think they're making training unnecessarily difficult, and their day-to-day life is harder. You're thinking a little bit slower, your joints ache a little bit more. The sustainability of your career doing that style of training is just not as good. If you segregated out your intensity in terms of endurance, better.
If you train CrossFit, if you coach CrossFit, if you've ever looked at your training week and thought, I'm working hard, but something's off, this one's for you. Today's not anti-CrossFit. I love this sport. It changed what people believe fitness can be. Strength, skill, engine, grit, chaos, competition, all of it. I'm here for it. But there's a conversation worth having about how we distribute stress across a week, whether we're actually building athletes or just repeatedly taxing the same systems and calling it hard work. My guest today has been living inside this sport and asking uncomfortable questions about it for a long time. I've got the outside lens, he's got the inside lens. Let's see what we find out. Let's get into it, John. Okay, so before we get into the meat and potatoes of things, why don't you tell the people who you are, where you came from, what you've coached through, what you're seeing right now in athletes that are worth talking about, and take your time with it.
This last year, I've taken a step back from competing, partially because I was burned out and partially just because when you go to a competition, you compete against like the same 5 to 10 guys for 5 years straight and you lose to them. You just kind of get to the point you're like, maybe I need to spend my time elsewhere. I love working out, I love training hard, and I love coaching people, but I was putting such an immense amount of time into just myself and my training. And I still do put in a lot of time, but there's a big difference in training 20 hours a week versus 15, just in terms of like your recovery demands, what goes through your head, all 12 hours of the day, versus like when I train now, like probably under 15 hours a week, which is still a good amount, is like a lot of my time I'm not thinking about like how I need to get better at cycling a 115-pound barbell. I'm thinking about what exactly I need to deliver to my athletes, what messages I could be posting online, mistakes I've made that I can try and help share. And I mean, it's been a big shift in this last year, and I still really enjoy working out hard. But there's a lot of conversations that I bottled up a lot of conversations for a really long time because in the world of CrossFit, there's one entity for the most part that cares about, I guess, that I cared about my reputation with, and I didn't want to voice my opinion about multiple things just because I was an athlete. I wanted to go down that path. And if I voice some of the things I've voiced in the last 4 or 5 months, people would be upset. Like I got L3s and L4s in my DMs all the time, essentially telling me how stupid I am or that they don't like me. And there has been a lot that have said the opposite, that have been like, dude, this is a very good conversation. Either way, I just didn't want to be provocative. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I want to share things. There's things that need to be talked about. There's things that people are not willing to talk about. And that's why I'm sitting here with you today. And that's why, and I do continue planning on doing it. It's definitely a little tiring, but I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and like I feel I've watched a lot of your content. We've connected privately and just I think the overarching theme is that, you're not anti-CrossFit. I'm not. I love the sport. I love what it's done to people's lives. I love how it combines, strength, skill, engine, grit, the chaos, the competition, all of that. And I know there's the sport side and there's the methodology side, but there's some honest conversations worth having. And I think if we can, frame it in a way that keeps it open, it keeps it open-minded, it's not specifically this is one thing, this is not the answer to everything. I think we can perhaps open the minds of other people. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you, it's something I've been sitting with for a while. You've coached athletes at a lot of different levels. I know your partner is someone who competes at a high level. When someone stalls in their progress, like genuinely stalls, not a motivational problem, what is the first thing that you audit?
The first thing I audit is how long have they been doing roughly the same thing? I mean, usually like when someone stalls, like this happens with myself too, it's like you could be following a pretty terrible program in my head and you can still make progress and you can stall. Is there's usually like a kink in the system that usually like if I talk with an athlete, usually within like 15 to 20 minutes, asking them a series of questions, I can find that kink. Even if it's outside of motivation, which that's a huge part of it, but acting like it's outside motivation, just like in terms of their training and recovery, is that there's a kink in the system, and more often than not, I would say that kink has to do with how they're recovering, how they're eating, how they're managing the stress, how they're sleeping, how much responsibility they have on their plate. I would say the kink is usually there rather than in the training itself, assuming it's a half decent training program. And there's most programs are half decent. It's just so easy to get a kink in not eating enough carbohydrates, going to bed too late and consistently getting not enough sleep, whatever that may be. And those are just so easy to perpetuate that all of a sudden if you increase someone's calories or carbohydrates by 15%, it's like in a matter of weeks. And I'm not saying it's not doesn't happen with training, and it does, and I fully believe that as you mature, as your training age goes up, I think in anything, in CrossFit, powerlifting, whatever it may be, the complexity of your training should increase as well. And the complexity of your training, like as a CrossFitter, if you're 2 years into CrossFit, like that's my point, is you could be following a not very good program and still be making progress, but you keep doing that, and then 10 years later, and you're still like inching for the same margins, your program needs to be pretty dialed. And your program starts to matter more as your training age increases to get the same amount of return in terms of increasing your fitness.
So do you see that at all levels? I mean, the question was, I know you coach beginners, intermediates, you were advanced yourself, top 50 in the open. Are these obvious holes that you found within your recovery outside of just the training program or the training stresses of the week?
Yes, absolutely. This absolutely happens with it. I mean, it's so easy to get caught in a point. Nutrition's like my favorite example to look at. And we were talking about Alan Argon and Lane Norton, is that like training's super important. Nutrition is super important. And that as an elite athlete, it's so easy. Like if you don't have a nutrition coach, if you don't have a tight hold on your calories, like for myself, it would be so easy. Like as I get through a training cycle, it starts to intensify. My appetite might start to decrease. My metabolism just starts to slow down, I guess you could say. Like all my metrics start down regulating. And then at that point, I go from one day eating 3,800 calories to maybe like 37. And then all of a sudden, you compound that over 2 training cycles, and I'm eating 3,200 calories a day. And I have to do like a self audit of why I feel like crap and why I'm not sleeping very good. And I like scratch my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to have a snack before training at this time. I think it absolutely happens to athletes of all levels. The main difference, I would say, when someone, and I don't even necessarily think it's someone who's an elite athlete versus somebody who's a beginner. When somebody in my head is an elite athlete, is that they care about something so deeply, it's almost just like regurgitating through their mind, because they feel like every data point in training, like, oh, this feels harder than it did last week. Why is this barbell feeling heavier? And then it's like makes them go back in their brain and be like, why are things not going better? And then they start thinking about what could possibly be going wrong, versus a beginner athlete or someone who might not care. They're not like cross-examining those data points all they're doing is they're just like, oh, I got through that workout. It was hard. I'm not thinking about what it was like 3 weeks ago when I had to match a similar burpee pace. All I know is that it was hard, right? And elite athletes are obsessed about that. And that's partially why they're elite athletes. And then beginner athletes, if they don't have a coach or someone being like, dude, you were moving pretty slow. I saw you moving a lot faster a month and a half ago. Maybe you're not sleeping very well. So elite athletes might, I, elite athletes still get affected by mismanaging a training or recovery. I just think they're quicker to get back on course. Versus like a beginner athlete or somebody who might not care as much, they can just like go down that path of having kinks in their system, kinks in their training for like years on it, and they might not make progress. But it's the fact of like how much they care and a mixture of having people in their corner to help guide
Yeah.
them. I think it's both.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. At the higher, more advanced levels, your days become very automatic. I mean, most people are eating the same shit every day. Like, don't talk to me about some crazy amount of variety from day to day. We're not constantly varied with our meals. And if you are, you're leaving gains on the table because that's just a lot of brain power that you do not need to waste. So yeah, that is a good point to make. Recovery aspects in your training usually show the biggest holes. If you're not eating a lot of the same things every day, how are you supposed to self audit yourself, right? If you're tracking your calories, I guess you can know how many carbs you averaged last week. But did you find that when you were at your most competitive in your most competitive training blocks that you're just eating the same stuff?
Absolutely. I was eating the same thing every day, but this is the hard part that I didn't know how to account for, and I still don't have the answer to. Is you just laid out how similar training is for elite athletes on a day-to-day basis, right? You go hit your session on a Tuesday that's roughly the same as the previous Tuesday. You eat about the same amount of foods every day. I agree with all of that. I think the part that gets really hard in terms of the application of it is when fatigue compounds over the course of a 4 week training cycle, 6 week training cycle. What felt like enough food and enough calories on week 2 of a 6 week training cycle, when I get to week 6, and let's just assuming you're taking a deload, because there's a lot of athletes that won't take like a week long decompression from stress, a deload week of some kind. And that if they don't do that, the stress at week 6 versus week 2, and then if they just keep going, then they're at week 10, and now hormonally everything's just down regulating. It's a cascade. Paces feel harder. Your performance, and that's the hard part though, is like I would get caught in that cycle so many times where I feel like my paces were the same. Subjectively, it might have been harder, but my performance was definitely not decreasing. And then I would take a week up, like a very chill week, like going from training 20 hours a week to like 6, which is like nothing. And then I would come back on the other side and I'd feel like Superman. But it's the week prior where you're like everything feels like it's going wrong, but you're eating and you're allocating enough time to sleep. It's just your body just needs a break. And that's
Yeah.
like a fine line. Like when I first started programming for myself, I was doing like 8 week blocks. Then I went to 6 week blocks. Now I'm at 4 week blocks. And now I'm like, that might be too long. I mean, I know there's some coaches on brute strength that will do. Well, I followed brute strength way back in the day when they had us on like 2 or 3 week blocks. And at the time, I was like, this is crazy. But like now when I think about it, I'm like, that could work. That could absolutely work.
Do you think there's a conversation to be had about the different type 1 and type 2 fiber biased athletes, where power based athletes, you're just going to be burning through way more energy throughout the week, whereas let's just say female, more endurance type, they can handle endless volume? I know this is opening up a bigger conversation, but do you think about that as well? Because I've had that where I've had 3 or 4 weeks, I'm like, I'm ready for a deload, or I need to pull back. I need to modify because I'm chasing the smallest gains with weight. Like I'm investing way too much energy for no stimulus.
Yeah, I mean I'm more of a power based athlete, much more fast twitch, explosive, and it's changed over the years. And I'm probably not as much anymore because I've done so much conditioning. But like, dude, there was so long where I tried to add an active recovery piece on like a Thursday, and then it just wouldn't work. I just couldn't recover because I just needed the time to rest. And even before that, like I wanted to add 2 sessions a day, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't take it because I'm a explosive athlete. So I had to stay at like 1 session a day, and I hated it. And I had to do that for so long. And then I look at someone who's exactly the opposite of me. My fiance Zoe, extremely aerobic, extremely conditioned, can handle immense amounts of volume, immense amounts of intensity, and it's been like that forever, forever. And for the longest time, I could not train at the volume and intensities that she could, but I could rev my engine way harder. But that doesn't mean I can sustain it longer. And it's taken a long time to get over that. But how predisposed someone is to being more fast twitch versus slow twitch has massive repercussions in terms of how much they can train and how hard they can train. Massive, massive.
Which is why you should have a coach, right?
Yeah, if you don't have a coach, you need to have a very strong idea of what you are, or else. I mean, I went through it, dude. It sucks. Like you try and add volume, and then you feel like crap, and then you have to take a rest day, and all of a sudden you take 3 days off, then you don't know what's going on, and you're not getting better. Yeah, I mean, a coach, or at least to have someone to have these kind of conversations with, to like guide you in a way. But I agree. I mean, I heard it was like Tiger. I don't know if it was Tiger Woods. It was someone, or like Phil Mickelson. He was like, to be an incredible golfer, you got to be incredibly smart or just clueless. Absolutely clueless what's going on. You're going to fall into either of those categories. And if you're absolutely clueless, you probably have a coach, and the coach is going to tell you everything, and you're not going to question anything. You're just going to do exactly what they do. And I think you kind of got to be either or. You got to know what you're doing, or you got to be willing to get a coach and listen to everything they say.
Yeah, putting full trust into a coach, regardless of what your previous biases and feelings were before, is a cheat code. It's a superpower. We as athletes are so incredibly terrible at being objective. Even when you have all the information, when you're in a pinch in a session and you need to call an audible, but you're not sure what to call, you might just pick the thing that you're better at, or the
For
thing
sure.
that boosts your ego. So I think that's a great bridge into what we were talking about when I messaged you. And this is getting into the meat and potatoes of things. So, what is the most common mistake you see in athletes and how they distribute stress across the week? So, stress is in training stress.
I Yeah, you messaged me this question. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I mean, just training training in general, I wanted to get like to make it more specific. That was like the only way I could find an answer in my head to this question, was how they regulate endurance work, conditioning work, right? That's like where my brain wanted to go. I had to make it a little bit more specific. And I think that regulation of in training of endurance work widespread throughout the community. I'm talking people who go work out 3 times a week for 60 minutes to a lot of athletes here at Syndicate Crown competing at semifinals. I think there is a very common error that they're making in their training. And I made it for the first half of my career. And I think what that error is people just accumulate absurd amount of time at zone 4 and zone 5. And zone 1, 2, zones 2 and 3 are just negated to a very high level. And I had Mark Holden on my podcast, and this is what he talked about. And if there was one thing that I said that I would have to say is mismanaged in our community, it's endurance work. Is that we do way too much high intensity in training, to a point that I don't. I think people's progress is slowing down because of it. I think they're making training unnecessarily difficult, and their day-to-day life is harder. You're thinking a little bit slower. Your joints ache a little bit more. The sustainability of your career doing that style of training is just not as good. If you segregated out your intensity in terms of endurance, better. That would, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the overarching theme of axial loading and the amount of spinal and core smashing that you're doing week to week with the barbells. Now, I know you need barbell work. That is a part of the sport. That's a part of what gets tested. That's a part of the methodology. But do you find that a lot of athletes are paying the same bill using the same system over and over again and just sending the invoice to the same address? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this is something I would say I got away with doing for a and I did it for a long time, is that I would load my trunk aggressively 5 days a week in a strength setting, like outside of Metcon, in a strength setting 5 days a week. I'd say earlier in my career, I did that regularly. And then time went on, and I started doing 4. And now I'm at the point where I'm at like 3 aggressive days of axial trunk loading, and I'm like, I just question myself now if 2 days would be better. Because like it's easy, Monday, you're fresh after the weekend, big axial loading. After your midweek rest day, after your active recovery session, it's easy to have another one in there. And then if you're to add a third, so if Monday's heavy, make it Wednesday, is what I found is that if I make it a similar stimulus, just we'll say working in 75 to 85 to 90% range, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the lift. If the velocity of contraction, the strength of contraction is very similar from Monday as it is to Saturday, kind of like those higher efforts that I think a lot of us work in pretty frequently from 75 to 85, 90% range. I found that the stimulus was, I do think, remarkably similar to what you said. You're going to the same address. But not only that, I think the bigger concern is like physiologically, that's when it becomes a problem, because if you're putting the same stress on your body 3 different times a week, to the point of where I like start to question, I'm like, we probably should need to go to a different address, because if I go to a different address, I can work on a different quality and I can work on a different system. And then at that point, I should be getting better quicker. So like one thing I've done a lot lately, like, so if you're trying to get stronger, if that's the goal, like heavy aggressive axial loading is, I guess, would be the umbrella of getting stronger. And like in terms of getting stronger, like there's so many different like pillars we can talk about, right? Like we could talk about plyometrics, we could talk about battery pieces, we could talk about like dynamic lifts, like banded work. Like there's so many other pillars that we can work on. But the hard part is, and I get it, like as a CrossFitter, like you're looking at what could be tested. And what could be tested more often than not is going to be a heavy barbell lift of some kind, something at a maximal effort with a barbell. So that's what you want your training to look like. That doesn't mean that's the right decision. So like the past couple of years, I've done a lot of velocity based training on that third like auxiliary day, is the way I say it in my head, which is not an auxiliary day. It just seems like it because it's not getting tested. And that could be speed work, that could be positional work, that could be more battery. That's extremely hard and difficult on your body, so that kind of goes against the entire point I'm saying. But there's other things you can work on outside of lifting super heavy that is going to make you stronger and perform better at those events, that I guess the spirit of this question is getting at. That's just the aggressive axial loading.
Yeah, and I see a lot of athletes who are bridging that strength gap where they're maybe 20, 30 pounds off of where their clean and jerk needs to be, where their snatch needs to be. And they're on day 3 of their training week. Spine's absolutely torched, but the legs are fine. Like their quadriceps, they're ready to rock. And there's a great opportunity to perhaps rest the barbell, go and do maybe some sleds, maybe a leg press, maybe some other accessory that maybe you don't have access to, but
Yeah.
maybe something else that doesn't involve that area and is going to allow you to accumulate quality sets to stimulate the muscle group. But
This is, this is a really good topic. This axial loading, like I think about this a lot. So Zoe, who's competing this weekend, she broke her back 4 years ago, and she had a spondylolisthesis. And the part that gets really hard about this is like I just talked about the axial trunk loading in terms of just the application of strength. And when we're talking about like axial loading of trunk, like I wasn't even including the metcons. And like there's a lot of programs out there and coaches who will program heavy metcons that needs to be accounted for in axial loading. That's one. Then the second thing is the amount of just like very aggressive flexion and extension we take our trunk through has to be accounted for. And that's, for example, like if you're doing a deadlift workout, heavy deadlift workout, aggressive flexion into GHD sit-ups, aggressive extension. Like, and it might not be that, like on a, if you just looked at your program on a weekly basis, like that one workout isn't going to do it. But like the combination of both of those is just like disastrous. Like if you set a workout like that super hard, really extended your back, really flexed your back, like that's going to torch you. And that's like what I've talked a lot about. Like that's a very sport specific workout that athletes need and coaches need to be very careful about programming, because like you could have your, in theory, you can have your axial loading scheme programmed perfectly. But if you're like mixing high flexion, high extension, you're doing tons of muscle ups, you can't maintain a trunk position very well in a metcon, that's not gonna, your axial loading scheme's not gonna matter. It's just not. You're gonna get messed up from doing too much sport specific movements. And then that would make this conversation not like negligible. But it still does matter. And there's just, I guess I'm just getting at the point that's multifactorial. That's just outside of, it's not just lifting. And then like when Zoe came back, it's like made me realize like, because she couldn't load her trunk for about 8 months. And then like when she's coming back, I'm like, oh boy, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard.
That's amazing that she's been able to make such a strong comeback. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a rough 8 months. And I mean the thing is that like, I mean, it's the same injury that Frazier had when he broke his back. Frazier just did it a lot worse. I think he broke the spinous process off his vertebrae. I think. I could be wrong. He required surgery. Zoe didn't. Zoe just had a few fractures in there. But like the main thing is like this is a very common injury in the weightlifting world, like getting a spondo. Is that it just like slowly happens. Like that's the same thing that happened with Frazier and the same thing that happened with Zoe. It's like your back starts hurting. You ignore it. You want to keep training. You keep training. You have a competition coming up. You keep training. 4 months later, what was an ache is now you can't sleep at night and it's debilitating pain. It's just slowly builds, slowly builds.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the points that you made about the combination of deadlifts and GHD, I mean, yeah, you have to be very careful with when you're deciding to program that across a week for an athlete or a group of athletes, whether you run a group training program or one-on-one programming, is like, how is that going to show up later in the week? Because the cost of that workout is very high. There's value in doing it, absolutely, in the right context. But if you have athletes who are, say, limited in their gymnastics, I know a lot of people who are still trying to get more ring muscle ups. They're trying to string together more strict handstand push-ups. It's like those workouts are costing the trunk in
Yep.
those quality sessions, right? Like Paul Weber has talked about this a lot, and he's an amazing individual who has shared so much great knowledge about CrossFit. And if you haven't followed him, go do it. But yeah, he talks about that a lot. It's like you need to be very smart with how you start your week, because that's going to determine how much fatigue you're carrying over later, and then prioritizing the most important movements for the athlete. So you got
Yeah.
to be careful.
Paul's a G. Paul is a G. Paul knows what he's talking about. It's impressive.
You interviewed him?
Yeah, yeah, I've talked to Paul. Lives in Colorado, so I've seen him at a few competitions. I've seen him at a few semifinals. He, I mean, yeah, he's a nerd. He knows what he's talking about. But I listen to Paul every once in a while. I mean, he's got some good stuff out.
He's got a lot of good stuff to offer. Okay, so the next question, and I think it's an important one because this taught me what working hard actually really means. And when you ever do your first few CrossFit workouts, you know what it feels like to get really uncomfortable. And the more advanced that you get, you learn how to manage it. But the chaos within getting uncomfortable it's amazing. So my question is, when does getting comfortable, being discomfortable or uncomfortable, become a liability instead of an asset. It's always just, oh, just work harder, push through it. You shared an example, break your back. When is it become a liability versus an asset in your thoughts?
Man, it's a slippery slope. I mean, there's definitely a population out there that can't get it to the point of it being a liability. And speaking of Paul Weber, one thing he told me that CrossFit does a really good job at, has done a really good job at, is it's to get people working hard. And like for a lot of people in the general population who are just looking to try and make some progress, like that's a pretty profound truth. And I agree with it, is that work freaking hard and you're gonna get some results. But then if we look at the other end of the spectrum about when you can get to the point of where it's toxic, at working too hard too often, about when does that happen? It's hard to say because like I think a lot of people like me and you both, like, we're addicted to the suck. We're addicted to the pain. We're addicted to the suffering. And like it gets like this feedback cycle in my head of that. If I can suffer, if I can put myself through another brutal workout, at the end, I'm gonna feel like I'm getting better. I will. And that doesn't mean I always will be. And to try and answer your question is, where is that line of when you are so addicted to it, it becomes toxic? I mean, I could almost talk about that with each modality separately, but trying to talk about it on a global level, I would say it comes back to how diligently you are tracking your recovery. And if you get to the point of you letting things slip so aggressively you stop caring about it, that's when I would say the line would be. So that would mean kind of like what I started off the podcast with about you, your nutrition starting to decrease. You start decreasing your consumption. You start not caring about the quality of food you're eating. You stop sleeping as good. You don't hit as many REM cycles. All of that, when you stop caring about those metrics, not caring is the wrong word. I would say when you stop keeping an eye on those metrics, that would probably be the biggest sign of
Yeah.
when it becomes toxic. I mean, because like I said, I could talk about it with every single modality. When you're doing too much, when you're doing too much endurance work, when you're doing too much momentum-based gymnastics, when you are accumulating too much axial loading, when you're doing too many sport-specific workouts. Like I could talk about it on each one, but globally, I would say is when your recovery starts going down and you're so addicted to the drug you're taking, you're not caring about that anymore.
Yeah, like I remember when I first got into it, first few years, I was chasing that and I remember crashing and burning so hard. I was still eating like I was when I was into bodybuilding and powerlifting, and it just wasn't enough food. And but you just wear that as a badge of honor. And there is absolutely a mental skill, and it is absolutely required to the next place or the next
Yeah.
spot in your journey in the right context. But we've turned it into a virtue. We've turned that virtue into a blindfold, and that discomfort, it has to be pointed at something specific. Otherwise, you're just collecting suffering and no stimulus. Like, are you getting stronger? Like, a lot of these athletes that want to compete in quarterfinals, it's like, if they bring back some heavier lifting, are you going to be ready for that?
Yeah.
Those are important things to say or ask.
I mean, the term you said is like you said something about example of you crashing and burning. I think that's a really good example because that's like when you're a junkie and you overdose. Like that's the example you're giving. And that, I mean, that's like the best example to give. But the hard part with that is someone overdosing on a drug in fitness, somebody drinking too much of the CrossFit Kool-Aid. That overdose is going to look so different across the board. For Zoe, she broke her back. For me, over the years, like I'm like got this like these Neanderthal sized joints. I don't know. I just like psychologically just like need to take like 4 days off. And that's happened so many times over the course of my career. But like all my biometrics are just going south and I can just feel it. I'm like, I gotta take time off. Some people's performance will just drop through the floor. Some people could tear a rotator cuff. Some people maybe their family life because they're just like disengaged, starts going south. There's so many ways that you could essentially overdose on the CrossFit Kool-Aid, and that's going to be different from person to person. It could be different from whatever season of life they're in, but it absolutely happens. It absolutely happens, and it can be toxic. There's no question about that.
You're
The
going through.
Kool-Aid can be toxic.
The Kool-Aid shows up as 1 hour of exhilaration, then 23 hours of flatness. And you know what? I'm going to double down on you talking about sleep disruption and say, yeah, when you're getting close to a comp, as you're peaking, yeah, things are going to get disrupted. You're pushing the limits of your own physiology. And that can mean progress because when you taper off and you super compensate, you're going to kick some ass. Like you said, you're going to be going through that wall like the Kool-Aid man, and you're going to crush that competition or whatever you're testing. But living flat, and if you're listening and you're going through that, these things can be solved through the recovery modalities that John was talking about. Usually it means eat more. Sometimes if you're a high level athlete, it might mean a deload, but you talk to your coach if you have one. I think I want to double that and talk about that sleep disruption, how much that's just going to punt your week if you're not smart.
So I had someone at my gym give me this term. I didn't even know this existed. He's like a runner. He was starting to taper for his marathon. And I think he used the term, he had a taper terror. And I was like, dude, that is so accurate because so many times, like in the past many, many years, like the worst I felt would be like right before I started a taper for a big competition because I was like so deep in a training cycle. I was training so hard. A lot of metrics were down. I was grumpy. I wasn't probably eating as much as I could. I was just down on myself, down on my performance, going into a taper, just thinking I'm going to get absolutely smoked before a competition. And then you taper and then you start feeling good, but then you're stressed out. It's just like all these emotions, dude. But yeah, he said taper tears. I was like, dude, I can relate to that. I know what that's like. It sucks. That's why like I'm here at Syndicate right now. And like I haven't been training as hard, but like I'm gonna be at a semifinal and I just get to like chill. I just get to like watch people. No stress. It's great. It's so great. I didn't
Wait,
have
so
any taper tears.
are you? I saw you're on the bill for semifinal Nate or something. Are you
Yeah.
on the demo team?
So pretty much I'll do the full work. I'm doing the full workout against like there's 10 of us. They're running a full heat of just
Like
a
what?
few really high level athletes and then a few people in the community. So it's like a mixture of like normal people and elite athlete, and I'm like the middle. Like Jason Hopper, I'm doing freaking Nate with Jason Hopper.
Is
Yeah,
Hiller there too?
Hiller's doing. So I think Hiller's doing one workout with me. I think he's doing the wheelbarrow workout. So we will be doing. I'll be doing one workout. He'll be in my heat as well. But it's just not stressful, dude. Like it's one workout. Like I could yeah, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like there's no leaderboard.
I love it for you, man. Is
Yeah,
that
it's
why you're there
it'll be good.
exclusively? Are you like
Well,
commentating?
Zoe's competing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Zoe's
She's
competing,
competing
so
for real.
for real,
She's doing
like
it for
yeah.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So I just gotta like chill and like encourage her and watch her. And it's I actually haven't been this excited to like go to a competition in a while. And I'm not even competing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great being on this side of it.
Yeah, it is a great feeling. I had a season-ending injury. I fell off a rope. I fell like 7-8 feet off a rope climb. I was doing legless rope climb, just standard stuff. Didn't get my foot clamp. Went down,
Oh my
and like
gosh.
as you know, like the Masters season is like I just finished quarterfinals, so I was 4 weeks out, and we're like 8 weeks, and I'm still like just getting my push-ups back. Like it's been a grind. So it's nice having my summer. I've already been doing things that the last 2 years I've just been in complete sacrifice mode. Like, right, this is a part of being that athlete is like everything's automated. Your no button is just like getting smashed every day. Hey man, you want to hang out? No. Like family dinner? Nope. Like you're just, you're
Oh,
just doing the things that you need to be able
yeah.
to do, and you're supported and loved. But like, dude, there's a point where you kind of have to like step out and just see. You're still training 20 hours a week. You might catch the bug again, but it sounds like you're enjoying it. So soak it up.
Yeah, I am. I am. I've mashed that no button. I mean, I still mash the no button. I wish I could just have it like permanently, but that's not healthy. That's not healthy.
So I know some of your takes lately have been like the movements and the tests, they're just not diverse enough, and everyone's making fun of John because he's not happy with
Yeah.
how the tests are. How
Oh,
how are we feeling about Syndicate Crown, and like, do you need to adopt more of the Jocko Willenick, like, good, anytime a competition set of workouts come, it's like, good, I'm prepared? Or do we need to be like, yo, these suck because maybe they just keep changing them up all the time? And maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't know.
no, I don't think they're. I don't think they're changing a lot in terms of competition to competition. I do think like I'm attacking the trends of what I see happening year after year. I mean, the most notable one, like you look back 10 years, things were different. Testing was different 10 years ago. You look at it now, it's different. Like that's everyone can agree with that. And then you can ask the question, was it better 10 years ago or is it better now? In terms of some of the patterns I'm seeing. Some of those patterns I'm seeing would be how many single modality testing events were there? There used to be a small representation of plyometric style training. And I would say there was a slightly more diverse range of movement selection. We see crazy cool things. And a lot of those patterns have just slowly disappeared. And we're at a point now is that's where I'm like, what are we doing? Like, and that's where the initial start to all of this was we're gonna call someone the fittest on earth, and they might not be able to run a 5-minute 40. They might not be able to do a vertical jump to a slapstick 30 inches. Like these are fairly basic athletic qualities that are completely absent from our space. I mean, that's at one end of the spectrum. Then the other end of the spectrum, which I could talk about this conversation for hours, is that is this 50-minute test, which is that's what it's been for the last multiple years. Is that a long enough aerobic test to crown someone fittest on earth? 50 minutes. That's the highest we've seen. And then just like dysfunctions of the pattern itself. Like, well, what's the end constraint and what's the beginning constraint? Is the end constraint a 50-minute test? Okay, then that's what it should be every year, in my opinion, about 50 minutes. Or are we going to call it a marathon row? What are athletes training for? It's this discrepancy of like, what are we doing? What are we testing? Where's the end constraint? Where's the beginning constraint? And people are like, that doesn't matter. It absolutely matters because if you know the constraints, then you know what you're training for. If you're training for a 50-minute test, that's going to be a lot different than you training for a 2.5 hour test. Not drastically different, but it's different. And it's also going to be different on the kinds of athletes it selects every single year to be the winner. Because if one year you're testing a whole bunch, or if you're testing very in a diverse manner under a minute, you're doing heavy lifts, you're doing jumping and sprinting, plyometric style stuff, sandbags, odd objects, and then you're also going super long. Like that, those are like these are two whole different things. Like I am just like pushing for some form of objectivity in what we're doing or standardization. And I absolutely think it's possible. And I think having some form of constraints is the easiest way to do it. And I think it needs to happen. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I know, and we could talk about a million other things, but I saw that three things. I saw you're getting your athleticism checked there. You did the four stacks out. We got those at my work too. And I guess my one question before you, if you want to expand on that at all, you don't have to, but the more muscular we get, right? Like there's a trend, and it's been talked about. We've talked about this. Everyone's getting stronger. Everyone's getting bigger. The weights are getting heavier. Similar to the enhanced games, if you're getting more muscular and you're gaining more muscle, are you gaining athleticism? Well, we saw that that wasn't the case, and we know that that's been researched. The more muscle you have does not necessarily mean you're going to be more athletic. Did you see the enhanced games?
Yes. Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a significant amount of qualities in terms of athleticism that are very independent on how much fat you have on your body and how much muscle mass you have on your body. So like there's this guy that keeps popping up on my algorithm that I just love watching, dude. He's on roller skates. This dude's got to be 80 to 100 pounds overweight. And he posts these reels of him doing extremely athletic things. Like he's doing backflips on rollerblades, he's doing gainers off of cliffs. He is so athletic. And he's like, and then you look at his body, and if you walked him past him on the street, you'd be like, this dude's not athletic at all. But, and sure, in some ways he's not, but there's a decent amount of qualities in fitness and athleticism that are independent of just how you look. Like it doesn't matter. And then get to your point of we are getting bigger. Like this is so important. We are getting bigger in terms of the amount of muscle mass on the highest level athletes in our sport. And that's we're getting bigger because those are the tests are selecting bigger individuals. That's why there's a pattern there. And that's part of why I'm saying we need to diversify our testing so we can not be so one-minded in terms of the qualities we're selecting because it's so aggressively happening. So here's a straightforward one. I'll ask you this question. So if you were to take, we'll say like 12 years ago, long time ago, 2013, 2014, you took the entire field, top 40 or yeah, 40 men, 40 women from this upcoming year compared to 12 years ago. If you had them both go run a marathon, 40 athletes now, men and women, 40 athletes, men and women from 12 years ago. If you had them go run a marathon, is the average time of that marathon going to be better now, do you think? Or do you think it's going to be better 12 years ago?
My gut says 12 years ago.
Because they're smaller. They have less tissue they need to supply.
Yeah.
Right? I think most people can agree with that. I would say that's a problem. And the reason why I think it's a problem is because in theory, if you're getting fitter, right? Like we all look at the work capacity curtain, like the whole curtain should be raising. And then to defend this argument, someone could be like, 4 hours is way too long. It's way too aerobic, too much muscle wasting going on, as Greg Glassman would say in a lot of his journal articles. And I would say, okay, that's fair. 4 hour, like a 4 hour bout or 3.5 hour marathon test that I'm describing is too long. Sure, we can say that. So let's go to a half marathon. Let's go to a 2 hour bout. Is that still too long? I sure as heck wouldn't say a 2 hour bout's too long. And to go back to that question I mentioned, 12 years ago when athletes were a lot smaller, had a lot just less tissue, I still think the average time 12 years ago in a marathon would probably be better than it was today. That's a pretty important data point in my head to say we are worse at. So that's one. So now let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Let's look at a test that's 10 seconds long. Now we're obviously going to just sweep the sheds in terms of how much weight we can lift. That's a data point today is clearly better. But what we're not sure what's better is, are athletes going to have a faster 40? Are they going to have a faster pro agility? Are they going to be able to jump higher? I don't know. I don't know. So then let's say I'm onto something, and let's say athletes 12 years ago could jump higher and they could sprint faster. But that's part of my problem is like we do such little testing that's like relatable to other sports because we do no single modality testing. Like I'm sitting here giving you this crazy hypothetical, which shouldn't be crazy. Like we're testing fitness. Like why can't we do some of these like fairly normal benchmarks, like running a 40, doing a vertical jump to like compare us to like each other and other modalities. Like I think that'd be really helpful. I think it would make us more relatable as a space. But instead I'm trying to give you this crazy hypothetical. And let's say I'm right on both of those. We're worse at a 2-hour bout and we're worse at 10 seconds, but we have a bigger center of the curtain. Does that mean we're fitter? Some people would say so. But in
You're
my
fitter
opinion,
within that time domain.
yeah, but my opinion is that everything should be slightly better. That we're biasing certain time domains, certain movements, certain qualities, and that's like the core of what I'm saying. It's like I don't think things are broad enough. I don't think things are varied enough, and the bias is starting to come out. And if we don't talk about this bias, bigger and bigger athletes are going to be selected.
Yeah, and we're seeing these sub genres, subcategories, sub whatever you want to call them, coming out with these tests. Like I know you had the gentleman who was running the test. Remind me what that was called
WFP,
again?
WFP.
No, was it?
Wait,
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
it is.
combine?
No, no. Okay, no. So there's WFP is introducing that
The combine.
kind of combine, right? And
Yeah,
then, but then the Xenon, right? Those guys too
yeah.
have some more like.
I mean, Xenom. I asked them, like Xenom, they programmed from an aggregate of the last 5-ish years of programming CrossFit. So like all of my dysfunction or all of my grievance towards the dysfunction of the programming in our system, they took an aggregate of everything. So like the dysfunction is there too. Like there's no sprinting, there's no jumping. I wish something was longer. I mean, it's I but like they just started like I'm trying to like center most of my, and I've said it multiple times, is like this is an HQ problem, but this isn't everything. Like my opinion on this, like this is happening from every competition to every competition. And it's not only HQ, but the reason I'm channeling it all to HQ is they have the biggest influence on the space. Like if HQ introduces dumbbells back in 2017, all the gyms buy dumbbells. If they have people do crossover double unders, people start practicing CrossFit. They have the biggest influence, right? So like that's like I don't hate CrossFit, but my grievances are going to CrossFit because they have the biggest influence. I love CrossFit. I own an
Have you
affiliate.
have you ever competed in any other sport that involves a barbell or periodization?
No.
Because it's amazing in that context. Like, I know 1 year out from a nationals powerlifting meet what my training's going to look like. And there's an ease to that. And I'm not trying to dismiss this because I love CrossFit and I'm still in it. But there is an unsettling feeling in CrossFit programming where even when you're talking to your coach, it's like where do you think we need to pivot to next month, because we just saw what the open workouts were. It's like there's almost like clues left along the way. It's Blue's Clues out there. We're trying to figure out, where's it going this year, right? The mystery, and like, is the unknown unknowable? Like, is that a little bit overrated?
So if you would have asked me this 1 year ago, I would have said yes, absolutely, it's overrated, unknown, unknowable, stupid. But like at the same time, like the unknown and unknowable, that's almost like single-handedly the cornerstone of the CrossFit methodology. And the way maybe I'm thinking about it is different than the way you're thinking about it. I'm thinking about the unknown and unknowable as something like as variance, as the Hopper model, as a competition needing a test that's 10 seconds long, testing that data point on the time scale, and there needing to be variance, and there needing to be things that are unknown and unknowable. But that's not what's happening in our space. Like unknown and unknowable isn't around anymore. Like my training for the last many years was anything but that. It seemed extremely similar because I feel like I knew I was going to be tested, and we're just going down that line even more. So go back to my example. Like if we were truly unknown and unknowable, if competition programming a 10-second test, the odds of it being a barbell, the odds of it being a maximal effort jump, odds of it being a max effort sprint, some form of complex. Like there's all these options that could happen, right? That might not include a barbell, but they always include a barbell. And I understand in the open, they might need to include a barbell more often than not, but there's ways to test jumping in the open that you don't need any fancy equipment. But everything ends up being selected the same thing every single year. So like there's no variance. And I see unknown, unknowable as kind of like the core tenet of what variance could be. And I like my training has seen more and more routine and similar on a weekly basis as the years went on, maybe because I knew what was going to be tested. Like I just don't think looking at CrossFit as a testing methodology and the patterns that we're seeing, unknown and unknowables left the chat. Broad time has left the chat. Like I'm at Syndicate right now. We're working in time caps of 4 minutes to 22 minutes. That might sound like a lot of time, but like why not have an event? And there's probably logistical concerns happening here with the amount of athletes that having a 60-minute test might have been impossible, but then like couldn't you send everyone at once to do a 60-minute test? Like and then why isn't there a test that's 10 seconds long? I mean, there's just that's what I'm saying is like unknown unknowable should mean a higher degree of variance. And that's variance in time domains, that's variance in movement selections, and that's variance in loading schemes. Like those are the three basic ways you can vary it. And the hard part with a competition is that the goal is should almost be a higher degree of variance would yield a better test, right? Because in a competition, you don't want random. If you have random, you can have all 5-minute workouts that are all heavy. You need to initiate or you need to constrain variance. If you constrain variance, that will be a better test because there will be more data points along however you want to look at it. The 10 general physical fitness skills, the work capacity curve, time, there has to be constraints. And if there's not constraints, unknown and unknowable isn't around. And I don't think that's a concern of the game makers. I don't think it's a concern of HQ. And in my opinion, just listen to this. If semifinals in games, just like looking at me, if they were testing plyometric style training to a degree that was somewhat replicatable to a hopper model of lifting an external load to moving your body weight, and it could go like maybe 50-50 of you having to go like do a 1 rep max snatch and you having to do a 50-yard sprint. My training would have looked so different over the last many years. So, because for so often I was like, all right, I'm going to have a 1 rep ollie lift or maybe a power lift. So I got to train those into the ground. So we're sitting here having conversations about axial loading. So for the last 8 years, I was trying to be one of the fittest people on earth, but I didn't go and have a single sprinting session at the track. And I was pretty successful in the sport. Like that's a problem. Like I'm not going to the track and sprinting. There's so many problems with that. There's problems with that from a testing perspective that we're not testing sprinting to somewhat of a degree that might be comparable to Olympic lifting and moving the external load. That's one problem. The next problem is if we're going to try and be like the ultimate GPP program and we're not going to test the most basic movements of humans, sprinting and jumping, but we're going to test the snatch, like something's wrong there. Like that is a problem. But the point being is that if that would have been present, my training over the last many years would have looked a lot different. If I had a high opportunity that I was going to have to go do a shuttle run, do a pro agility test, do 40, do a slapstick, whatever it may be, it would have looked very different. And honestly, like this is why I'm saying this. Like that would have been more enjoyable for me. Like loading your trunk every day, not every day, whatever, 3-4 times a week, heavy, you feel like crap. Your CNS that you feel like crap. Your trunks it hurts. First, I think it'd be more fun for the athletes, and that's like I know it'd be more fun for me if I was doing more sprinting and jumping training, and I was forced to go to the freaking track and do some sprinting on a weekly basis because there's a high chance that it was going to be tested. Like it'd be more fun for me. I think it'd be more fun for other athletes, and it's just a more it makes sense, and that's why I'm just like, as people say, all I do is complain, and that's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like, how would that translate to their performance within CrossFit, right? If
There
you
you go.
are jumping higher. I guess my one thing is like, okay, so where do we go from here? So then did they announce, okay, 2027, get ready, we're doing a half marathon, or we're doing 16 kilometers or 10 miles, whatever whatever that conversion. We're doing a 10-mile run. You can start training for this. And then, but I guess they did the marathon row in the past. And then the other thing is, okay, sprinting. If you're just going to get people who haven't been practicing running to start sprinting, like the injury rate on that is going to be significantly higher. We know that the machines load the joints a little bit easier, and you can sprint on an echo bike with pretty much no fear. You can't say the same about running on a track. Now I know you would prepare the tissues and like build up to that, but how would they introduce that, right? Because we're gonna see probably a lot of bad publicity. It's like, oh, CrossFit introduces the 40-yard dash, and we got half the population out with hamstring tears because they have like this crazy
Oh.
power that they can like express through a barbell, express through the machines, like stress through external loads. Like, how do we do it, John?
So I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, the first thing I want to think about is like there, like I've talked to a lot of smart people on Instagram over the last few months, and my opinion on many things has changed. One thing that, like, when we're having conversations about this and testing, CrossFit, there's a training methodology, right? Like CrossFit has a way of training that's going to get your work capacity better. That's the testing methodology. Those are different. And if we're going to talk about the training methodology, you could train the same athlete as me. Let's say it was identical twins. You could do something completely different than me. You could have completely different schemes, completely different training schedule, completely different set of advisements than me. And they could get fitter than me, or my person could get fitter. They could both like almost equally get better with very different protocols, right? Like me and you both know that. So like talking about CrossFit as a training system is one thing, and it's really hard to do because there's like the variability across the board. But talking about it as a testing system, you can talk about a lot because that's work capacity across broad time. And what I'm saying is 5 seconds matters greatly. I think physiologically there's a lot of things that are very unique that happen on a very short time scale. That are not going to happen at 15 minutes into a workout. That you can do 4 seconds, like things that'll save your life. That Andrew Hill used to talk about, like you dodging a tree branch, absolutely. You jumping over a rock, running away from whatever the point may be. Is that matters greatly. And then if we're going to talk about testing at the CrossFit Games, using the argument, talking about it, and Kyle Ruth talked about this some with me, is like at a certain point with age group athletes, should we talk about not sprinting? Maybe, I'm not sure. But for this conversation, like let's talk about normal individuals. Let's talk about people like Jason Hopper, James Sprague. What do we need to have them do? Do I think telling them to go run a 40-yard dash might pull their hamstring? Yeah, I do. So maybe if I was the lead game maker, the first year I introduced plyometric style training, I would do something that was fairly safe in terms of letting the athletes get through the weekend to set the standard that, like, hey, maybe we're going to be testing these qualities more often. So maybe something like you jumping over a PVC for height, maybe a broad jump, things that like probably that will for sure not have as high of a risk factor. But even then, like after that, maybe like the first year, maybe the second year, you do it. And then you can start testing like 40-yard dashes, sprinting style qualities more often. It's just maybe easing into it. But even at that point, like in a couple of years, they can absolutely be doing it. What I believe is more important is that they do it consistently. Like if I would bet so much money that they test it this year. There's going to be a sprint or there's going to be a jump. It's coming, dude. But what's more important is that they do it next year, in my opinion. And if they don't do it next year, they do it at some point in the season. Because if they just if they do it once and then they negate it, that goes back to what I just said. Is like there needs to be standardization of variance to some kind of degree, right? Because if there's not, we're just going to end up with another open and quarterfinals of kind of similar movement patterns and same time domains, and that's not okay in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What makes you think that they're hinting towards that?
Hinting towards testing basic human qualities such as sprinting and jumping. Because I watched Castro's video like a day or two ago saying there's going to be partial events, like 50-point events. I think that's something he said. He was just, and then he made a statement like, dude, this just grinds my gears. He goes, so he makes his post saying, this year we're going to have a complete test of fitness. We're going to be as wide as we can be. And then I go to the comment section. John Young comments on it. Why wouldn't we want every year like that? It's like, thank you. Exactly. Every year should be like that. So, Dave Castro, why some years do you decide not to test a full range of fitness? Why last year did you want to just go with the bread and butter of fitness and what I would estimate is the error and biases of the game makers? Like, why do we do that? Why are we not valuing other qualities? So this year, so since this is going to be like the 20-year reunion of CrossFit, are we now going to value other qualities of fitness? Like, does that make sense? Like, why? So this upcoming year, your sprinting and jumping matter because it's 20th year anniversary, but they're not going to matter again until the 30-year anniversary. That makes no sense. That makes no
Why don't
sense.
they get their Reebok sponsorship back for the 20th anniversary and let's get the show on the road, boys?
Yeah, I don't think Reebok's coming to. I don't think they're coming to save us. I mean, it'd be
All right,
yeah.
Red Bull. Come on, you
Someone I
guys
don't
did WFP.
no, I don't know. I mean, I think someone could come back at some point in time. I think like the part that I've been thinking about a lot lately is so like there's like a line out there somewhere between like we talked a little bit earlier about like CrossFit, the upper levels of CrossFit, drinking too much Kool-Aid, potentially being toxic, right? And there's something in my mind that's I've been thinking about is that like if we drink too much Kool-Aid, we don't become very relatable in what we do. And like a lot of the tests we have, that's why I kind of said like we don't do very many things that are relatable. Like when we're just doing like these triplet workouts that are 20 minutes long, doing things that like people have never seen, like people are doing like kipping handstand push-ups, butterfly chest to bar, and squat snatches. People just look at that and they're just like they like can't relate to it, right? Because it's like this thing that's like they just don't know how to do it, right? Like someone who doesn't do CrossFit, like when my parents don't do CrossFit, and they watch me do like chest to bar, and handstand push-ups, and squat snatches. They just can't engage with it, right?
Yeah, they can't comprehend it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that those are style movements are bad tests of fitness. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I think there's a chance the degree of which that we valued some of those sport specific skills, those things that seem to get tested every single year that no one else really does but CrossFitters. And it's okay. Like it's okay for us to have some of those movements. I just think we're slowly losing the ability to be relatable to people. Be relatable to people in other sports. Be relatable to people who enjoy fitness but doesn't know what a butterfly chest bar is. Like when people see someone in high rocks running fast and they're all sweaty, when they see someone doing a heavy farmer's carry, pushing a heavy sled, like these are things people can be relatable with. Like they can see it and they can be attracted to it. So I guess from what you said is I like for us to get another Reebok or a Red Bull, I think we need to be more relatable. And I think we have drank so much Kool-Aid for so many years. No one's been like, guys, the Kool-Aid can be toxic. And we're just kind of like,
It's not, and it's not even pumping the brakes either, dude. It's just having basic conversation
yeah,
and just okay, dude. We all have our biases, but like, can we not identify a bit of the dogma? Like, can we not just bring research in? okay, this has been
Yeah.
studied in sports that have existed for 100 years. Why
Yep.
is that getting thrown out? Oh, it can't be a part of the conversation. Oh, anecdotal story about my mom. I don't give a shit, dude. Like, I'm glad that they're doing well, but like, it's just like when you come out and then you get shut down because you're just trying to have a conversation. You clearly love the sport. Don't worry, guys. I drink the Kool-Aid. I'm in there. But I have questions to ask. You've went through the ringer with it. Is
Yeah.
that not okay to like bring that up?
I mean, the most blaring one that hurts me, to go to your point about like the community rejecting academia, literature, people outside of CrossFit. Dude, like I have people messaging me all the time about my opinion on carbohydrates being so wrong. And like that's just like it just hurts me. It hurts me inside that people are coming at me and they genuinely believe if they consume a diet of 50% carbohydrates that they're not going to be as fit and they're not going to live as long. Like that is such a it's such a
It's
basic
harmful.
it's harmful. Exactly, it's harmful.
It's
It's
harmful.
harmful advice to a population of people that engages in the highest known exercise that mankind has ever created. To discourage them from carbohydrates is harmful. I agree with that. But like it just hurts me more deep down that I'm like that like that's there. Like people are so against it.
And it's also like it was just clipped. Like they took something that you said with no context, right? Of course, yeah, you are maybe making that statement, but do you like okay, maybe their upwards limit is beyond 50%.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm close friends with Jack Farlow. This guy eats 8 9 he's eating 900 calories or 900 grams of carbs today, maybe more, to prepare for Madrid. Okay? He only can absorb 200 grams of protein, and his fats, you can only go so high in a day.
Yeah.
So let's just do the math there. That's well above 50%.
Oh yeah, he's probably at 65 plus.
It's like, oh, well, we're not talking about, it's like, it's always fucking
Yeah.
cherry picking,
I
like
mean,
this and that. Like, dude, stop.
yeah, I don't know. That I mean, there's a clear I don't even know what it is. A rejection of a rejection of new ideas, new principles. And that's why like a lot of my kind of input on the internet is just like getting at the testing CrossFit as a testing methodology. And that's because there are truths there that I think still can be talked about. Because as a training methodology, like I don't want to talk about carbohydrates because I don't want to talk about that because if I can't even get my point across about carbohydrates potentially being important, that like how can I convince someone periodization might be important? If
Okay, well, those athletes can enjoy staying fucking average.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, like at a certain point, right? Like, okay, so I do want to talk about that a bit, man. I do because it also lives close to me too. I coach people. I coach people who have jobs. I coach people who have families. And unfortunately, they need to make a lot of adjustments in their life to start eating healthier, right? So if I just tell them to only eat vegetables or whatever the
yeah,
food pyramid is, they're gonna fail every time. Oh no, just do it. Just work harder, right? Like it's
yeah,
always the classic ones, right? Like take no responsibility for what you're saying, easy blanket statement, or help the individual. Make the smallest adjustments first. And over time, guess what? These people are able to adopt nearly what that food pyramid will look like. People do need to eat whole foods mostly. 20% of the time, enjoy yourself. That's what I learned from like Alan Aragon and Lane. It's like you're going to pay your nutrition bills for the day. You can only hit 100% once for the day. You eat your fiber, you eat your fruits, your vegetables. And after that, the bills are paid. You've got some room to enjoy yourself.
yeah,
Okay? Pick the thing you like and have it and don't feel guilty and don't buy into that shit because It's, dude, I've competed at the Masters CrossFit Games. I eat popcorn. I eat fucking ice cream. I drink alcohol sometimes. I've
Yeah, it's
made it to high levels. I'm not the best, but I'm telling you, you can do these things. And just telling people those blanket statements, like giving them percentages, like, dude, it's so lazy.
not only can you do those things, in my opinion, you should do those things. I mean, as soon as
Yeah.
you stop doing that, dude, like you just turn into a robot. Like if every time you try and like just fill your plate only with vegetables and fruit, and don't get me wrong, like you said, most of the time that is a very good thing to do. But like
You should do that.
eating your kid's birthday cake is also probably a good thing to do. Like,
No, no, son, I will not eat that.
yeah,
That has
there's
processed sugar in it. Dad, I love you. I want you to like enjoy this moment with me. I only turned two
yeah,
once, whatever. Like, nope.
yeah, it's good. I mean, you need
That's a
you
good
need it.
example. And guess what? That shows up 5,000 times in a year where that's the thing that you should do.
Yep.
Um, I was about to say something else. I forgot, but I think this topic's important. I actually do remember what I was going to say. A lot of people who share these very passionate statements with you are the people who found CrossFit first as their means of fitness and health and wellness. So it's the first time they started exercising hard. It's the first time they started eating well. And it's the first time they've started like building mental skills on pushing harder. So when you adopt that, that's all you know.
Yeah.
But if you've come from places that adopt a more flexible approach that makes sure that we're eating this percentage of food, and then you go into that space and you're like, wait, what? Like, why am I'm at level one. I almost left. I'm getting yelled at because I'm eating sugar. Bro,
That's a good
I
point.
might have to leave this. Like, dude, it's that is the main point. I listened to 3 hours of you talking about food and then you getting ripped apart. Fucking bullshit. Like, dude, people find it first, and that's why they are the way they are, because they don't know any fucking better. And if they want to learn and just grow a little bit and talk to people who've done other, disciplines, who've had success in those
Yeah,
disciplines, who have healthy blood work. Anyway, I'm rambling because
that's good.
I feel for you, bro.
I've never, I've never. There's a lot of people. I mean, CrossFit does so many things well, and CrossFit has gotten so many people results in their fitness for the first time ever, and that's profound. And that's why I buy into the CrossFit methodology.
Amazing.
But then, like what you said, is like there are people who do find success doing certain protocols that might not be tied to CrossFit, and then they come into CrossFit, and then all of a sudden eating carbohydrates is bad, and then it makes them scratch their head. But what it does, to your point, and I agree, is that creates like a tribe of people that like believe like this is the one way. And this is like what I said, like over here we got like the CrossFit as a training program with the North Star of increasing your work capacity. Like if we're going to talk about it as a training program, like there's a whole lot of wiggle room there. And me and you both agree that like a dogmatic approach to figuring out what is the most appropriate down here isn't good. Isn't good. And I don't buy into it. And that's and when you have a community of people that a large amount of them get results for the first time trying a list of operations, they're going to be heavily biased to those list of operations. Whether they're, yeah, yeah, it's a good point. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. Like when people first get into CrossFit, they're going to be scaling a lot of things, and we're going to be very accommodating of that. If I come in and my diet is consisting mostly of highly processed foods, I'm going to be accommodating to the first step that you're going to make to eat better. Oh, I want to RX that meal. That means I'm eating something that checks these boxes. It's protein, it's a healthy carb source, it's vegetables. That's great. You got there, right? And it's just like how we're framing it. We already have enough issues with like food problems, what is the term, like binge eating, like disorders. We have a lot of disorders already in this space.
Yep.
We need to accept that people who eat more are going to be feeling better. And when we start when people are reading this, right, and they just like, we all cling to like the like drama, right, like all the fucking drama in this space, and it's just like, guys, like, are we helping people, or are we just feeding them into like more confusion? I know these conversations we're having that are 2 hours long, it's like, it needs context, right? None of this like shit on Instagram like can be described in 30 seconds, like
Okay, and
properly,
it's
right?
hard, dude. Like I feel like in the first like month or two of me posting online, like I learned that pretty quick. Like it's so easy for me to write something and someone to be like, I could completely disagree with you. And then like we started messaging back and forth, and I'm like, yeah, we were not on the same. Like he interpreted what I wrote very differently. And I think that happens a lot. And like it took multiple conversations of me like talking through things with people. And I'm like, yeah. But like, I mean, in my head, like it just made a lot of like negative feedback I get on the internet. I just like don't care because I'm like they don't know what I'm trying to say maybe, and even if they, yeah, that's at least the way I think about it.
Yeah. And I think yeah, like you're a coach. You promote your coaching services. You're creating content to help build yourself as a coach, as someone who can be trusted in the space, who has a lot of questions, who acts and operates the same way in a podcast as you do in the DMs. Like you're congruent and consistent across the board, and that's what builds trust in people. When I see coaches that are extremely fucking rude and like they wouldn't ever talk to a client that way, why are we like acting and putting
Yeah,
on the jester hat so much to like get clicks? I mean, it's just
it can be hard, dude.
it's
It can be real hard sometimes. Like people say things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to blow up on them so bad, and just like it can be
it's
hard,
easier to be the villain, man. It really is,
dude. It's so
right?
easy. It's like there's
Put the hat on.
so many comments. I just want to be like, say some insert derogatory term, send, and like it crosses my mind multiple times a day, but you don't need to do it. It's that's easier. Like you said, it's easier.
Yeah,
And
it's easier.
it does no good. Does no good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, we've been able to have great conversations. You've like connected with so many like amazing coaches and athletes in this space. Like, are your questions getting answered, John?
Hmm, some things have changed. So here's one that I reject is there's been people to tell me that I'm over analyzing things, which I might be. And the cornerstone of me over analyzing things has come down to people telling me that the CrossFit Games is a sport and it's not meant to be a reflection of the CrossFit methodology. This is kind of like the core of it. Like this is like one of the biggest rejections that people tell me about what I'm doing is that everyone's accepted the CrossFit Games as being kind of its own tangential thing to what CrossFit is. That like we test a list of qualities that might not entirely replicate the unknown or unknowable, variance to a high degree, right? Which, okay, maybe that's right. So then at that point, the CrossFit Games should serve as a marketing campaign for trying to grow CrossFit, if that's what it's going to be. So then I'm wrong. So let's have that conversation. So how well of a job is CrossFit doing of being super engaging and fun to watch? And then what I go back to is these people that tell me this is when you go look at the data from the Olympics, what's the most watched event at the Olympics in the summer? It's a 100-meter sprint.
100-meter dash. Yeah.
People aren't watching people go snatch and clean and jerk. And this gets back to what I think we're failing at is we're not relatable. that if we are more relatable, we can do things in like it's a fine line to balance because like I do see value in testing the sport specific skills, but like there's also like a business side that like us trying to grow our mission. And if we're trying to grow our mission, eyeballs on the screen matter greatly. So if CrossFit is a marketing scheme for the business, we need to be testing things that are more entertaining to watch. And I'm sorry, watching workouts, triplets of kipping handstand push-ups, butterfly chest bar, and squat snatches, it's not very relatable. People aren't going to tune in for that. People are going to tune into things that are relatable. So then, like, I guess that would be that's like the ultimate question that's not getting answered. If I'm wrong, if all these discrepancies that I'm talking about, of that's, I would say the methodology is not being shown in testing for many things we've talked about. Maybe it's not supposed to, but even if it's not supposed to, and it's not working as a marketing campaign because, as you mentioned, where's Reebok? Where's Red Bull? Where are the eyeballs watching everything? So I guess that's my biggest question. That's not getting. I mean, maybe that is the answer, and I just need to talk about it differently. But that's like that's the biggest one.
As like, do you feel like the percentage of like support versus just like combatism, the playing out the way you thought it would, are more people negative towards you in the DMs, or more people like myself that just see where you're trying to go with this and want to hear and expand on that?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because this might sound arrogant, but like when someone messages me and they tell me like if someone just messages me and tells me I'm stupid, like okay, whatever. But a lot of times they'll be like, this is the way this works because of this and this. And then I'm like, from there, like from their concern about my opinion, it's usually pretty easy to tell like if this person knows what they're talking about. Like some of the people I talk to the most on Instagram have just been people that have messaged me something, and I'm like, they're onto something here. And I can tell by the question and kind of like how they come back to my point or how they refute what I said is that they know what they're talking about. Because like I'll tell people will tell me I'm stupid and they'll tell me why, and then I'm just like, dude, that makes no sense. I don't understand. Like I am not going to engage with something like this. But then there undoubtedly has been a handful of people who've told me I'm wrong about something, and they were absolutely right, and I engage with them. And there's multiple of those people that I still engage with almost on a daily basis, and it's entertaining. But I would say I don't know. I want to say it's more positive than negative, but that's probably just me trying to be supportive of myself.
Well, you do gotta be your own cheerleader sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. But it could definitely suck. I mean, there's just a lot of what I just keep thinking about is like a year ago, the amount of like engagement I would have on the internet, it just wasn't transactional. Now I have so many transactions that just have like good or bad, right? Like it's just another transaction, whether someone's saying good things or bad things. And those they just add up, you know? They add up.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to most this week? I mean, you said your partner's competing. You're competing, I guess.
I'm excited to talk. There's a lot of people I'm excited to talk to. Um, dude, I'm just excited to be here and like not. I've gone to so many of these competitions, dude. So stressed out and so like so many expectations to try and fill. And like usually like it's Wednesday right now. Competition starts in 2 days. Like I would be just like high strung, would be stressing about trying to get to sleep, stressing about this, and now it's just like, dude, I'm just chilling. Like I don't care what happened. Like I can, like I'm not stressed. It's so nice. So there's not really anything in particular.
Remember how exhausting it is to like go through a grocery store, like just getting the things you need, and you're just like still a few days out, you're just like, "Oh, I don't even want to eat, like,
Yeah, I
but I
just did
gotta
that.
eat everything." Of course, below 50%, you're gonna eat below. All
Yeah.
right, man. Well, in closing, I guess I want to ask you one more question just to drive it home, nice and easy. If you could say one thing to the athlete who's working incredibly hard right now and not progressing, what would you tell them?
I would tell them it just takes time. Like it's just, if you're patient with what you're doing, you'll get everything you ever wanted. I started CrossFit when I was like 19. I was like, "Oh, I'll go to CrossFit Games when I'm 23." As an individual, I'm 31 now, and it never happened. But like, I got a lot fitter along the way. And the main thing I would say is, it's just about setting up systems, training programs, how you're eating, how you're recovering, in a way that you can sustain for a long time. Because if you're like moving pieces around your life, you're like, okay, I can do this for the next like 3 months. It's like you might get fit in 3 months, but this isn't about that. This is about years. This takes time, long time. And one thing I always mention is that this is what I learned from, I don't know if I think it was Jason Phillips, is that the best piece of nutrition advice is almost the best piece of advice for training. If you're not willing to do something forever, don't do it. So it's
I
all
think
about
that is the best
sustainability.
one. I think that is the best one for nutrition. And
Yep.
I think Lane Norton said it maybe 10 years ago. I heard it from him. It's just, is the diet you're doing, the food that you're consuming right now, something you can do for the rest of your life?
It's what it is. That's the ultimate answer. And like I could talk about that in terms of training. Like think about that. Like that's a good note to end on. Like people listening to this, like if there were, yeah, the way we're training, all of it, all the movements we do, can we do that forever? And I don't think that's a crazy question to ask. And I'm gonna have a guest on my podcast, and this is gonna be a core question. This is a CrossFit OG. So he's going to be able to answer these questions with time because he's been doing it for decades.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Mystery.
Yeah, it'll be a
What
mystery.
date? What's the date on that? Is it TBD or
TBD. It'll probably in the next couple weeks. Maybe next week. Hopefully next week. We'll
all right,
see.
man. We'll be watching it. So yeah, like as a closer, just to kind of like bundle a lot of the themes that we talked about today. The first one, just the cost distribution. CrossFit does not have a hard work problem. It has a cost distribution problem. People work so damn hard in this space and they think, I
Yeah.
just got to work harder. That's not the case. You know, smarter is not softer. You got to go harder where it matters, cheaper where it should be, and better training economics are super important. So, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And good luck this weekend to you and Zoe, and hopefully chat again soon.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Peace.